Welcome to Private Club Radio, your weekly source for industry education, news and discussion. Broadcasting from Tampa, Florida, ladies and gentlemen, here is your host, Gabriel Aloisi.
Well, I want to do my part here for the industry to keep you up to date on the coronavirus and COVID-19 so that you are informed and prepared for what's going to take place here in the next couple of months. I think it's really important that we do not panic, but that we are aware of what's happening and we are prepared for what will come. So we've got three private club industry experts coming on here. We're going to have a discussion with Cindy Vizza of the National Club Association, which is really becoming the repository of up-to-date current information for clubs. She'll tell you about how you can access that information and what steps your club may want to consider taking to make sure that your staff and members are safe. We're going to chat with Peter Nanula of Concert Golf Partners to talk about the economic impact that we are seeing as we speak. 9% is the current loss on the Dow Jones for just today. We're down getting close to 25-30% over the last week and a half. We're going to talk about how clubs need to prepare financially and what economic indicators they need to be on the pulse of here moving forward. And we're going to speak to Justin Bear, whose text tool, Member Text, can keep your members prepared and up to date. In fact, he's giving the tool free to you, and I would highly recommend you take him up on his offer. He's giving it free for 2 months so that you can keep your members informed. It's so important and so vital to do that. Make sure to stay tuned to this entire episode. Make sure to send it to your colleagues, to your members, and to your staff so that they are aware of what's happening and where they can find some of these resources as well. And I wish you all a safe few months ahead. Here we go. I've got Cindy Vizza of the National Club Association. She is Vice President of Communications with me on the line. Cindy, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Gabe, for having me on your show.
Yeah, as well as we all can be doing, because it's hard not to hit the panic button just based on the news cycle right now. So, yeah, that's a good answer. Just for folks, I want to kind of recap where we are here as we stand at 9:30 a.m. while we're recording this in real time on the East Coast on Thursday. And what's the date today? It's March 12th. Wow. Okay, so basically last night President Trump declared a travel ban on flights to Europe, which is already going to prevent me from taking a trip to Europe on Saturday that I was planning to attend. We've got March Madness, which is going to be played in front of no stands, no audience. We've got the NBA, who's decided to cancel their season. We've got local and state governments starting to prevent the large gatherings of people out there. So there's a lot happening in real time here. And, first off, Cindy, I know you guys have really been keeping track of this from almost the beginning. So could you give us a timeline of the NCAA's activities and what you're doing to get the right information out to clubs in the industry?
Sure. It was actually exactly a month ago on February 12th when we had our first club member request information from us about communicating coronavirus to its members. Some of its members were expressing concerns and they wanted to know what the club was doing and what they should be worried about. We decided to publish an article. First we did a little research and just sent them to the CDC website and a few other reliable sources, and then thought, let's put together an article which appeared on February 25th in NCAA Agenda. And the article contains specific information and practices that clubs could use to mitigate the risk of COVID-19 at their clubs and to address their members and staff's questions and concerns. So we included a sample member communication that was based on that original letter developed by the member earlier. And we tried to provide just general practical information in this first article and made it available to everyone in the industry and promoted it on our social media channels. From there, we had some really positive feedback from clubs, and new requests for information about communicating coronavirus to their members began coming in. And so we researched other resources and ways to protect clubs, their employees, and their members. The good news is that there's a lot of hospitality-related organizations and government websites that provide good information. So what we decided to do was create a new web page to share this information on how to prepare for a potential outbreak in their communities and provide those links to major health organizations like the WHO and the CDC, for things like situation updates, travel alerts, risk assessment. OSHA and the Department of Labor has guidance for the workplace and keeping employees safe, and we provided that information as well. Links for information about guidelines for employers and business continuity planning. Just general information about the virus and how it spreads. We developed a primer for clubs on preparing for COVID-19 and, listed some best practices that cover things like housekeeping and facility sanitation, anti-epidemic member interactions, club staff, business operations, and included some downloadable fact sheets and posters to communicate with staff and members about new procedures that may be implemented at the club. And then just yesterday, we created a special issue of Club Industry Brief, which is our e-news digest newsletter that we send out. And it had a section on news related to coronavirus and specifically the club industry. So we were able to talk about our new website that we launched and invited people to go there for more information. We talked about articles regarding the Denver Country Club that had a member test positive. There were some articles about a Hong Kong hotel and how they handled COVID-19. They were, in a very different situation there. There was news on how coronavirus is impacting the community, the retail industry, ways to wipe down and keep the clubs clean, restaurant resources for COVID-19, and even stories on how the LPGA and just the PGA are, planning to handle tournaments amidst this coronavirus. So we've really done quite a few things to share resources from the American Society of Association Executives. That's our trade association that serves the trade association industry, the Restaurant Association, NRA, the American Housing and Lodging Association. Everybody is trying to put out some specific information and guidance for their members. So we're sharing all of this.
Yeah, well, my hat's off to you guys for taking the lead here for our industry and working really around the clock to get this information out to folks. First off, before we go any further, what is that web page and how can folks access that information from the NCA?
They can go to nationalclub.org/coronavirus. And that is the web page. And from there, there's downloadable forms. There's the primer that I spoke about, and then just a whole host of links to federal government agencies and articles of interest.
Yep, it's really fabulous site. I've been to it. And I've seen all the articles and documents that you've got on there. It's really comprehensive. So I definitely recommend clubs go there, nationalclub.org/coronavirus. And we'll put a link to that in the show notes here. Next question for you, Cindy, is, in your opinion, I know you're not necessarily a medical doctor, of course, but as an association and, trying to help serve the industry here, what should be some of the steps that clubs may want to think about taking in terms of being safe and keeping members and staff safe from this?
Well, you need to consider your disaster planning and preparedness plans. And while this isn't the same as preparing your facility for, say, a hurricane or a flood, you do have some specific facility procedures that should go into effect concerning sanitation and housekeeping issues. You want to make sure the club is cleaned and that all of the surfaces are wiped down regularly. And you can really get into a lot more specific kinds of things as far as what they call social distancing, keeping people a meter or 3 feet apart, because it is spread through the air. So you want to maybe reduce your capacity in your restaurant or be able to seat people not quite so closely at your lounge and bars areas, your grills. You want to consider limiting, during peak periods, how many people can crowd into your bar, and large gatherings. You may also want to consider what activities are high member contact or high touch activities, like your card games. I'm not sure how you sterilize cards, but obviously, clubs are putting hand sanitizer out, but still, it's one of those close activities. Or at the city clubs that might have water polo. I'm not sure how it passes in water, but again, you're doing close contact. I think it's really important to just listen to what your state and local health agencies are instructing you to do. But I think there's just some really good anti-epidemic member interactions that can be controlled at the club. Meet with your board of directors, talk about what practices and policies will help with, prevention of the spread. And other areas is food service. No more self-serve. The last thing you want to do is have a buffet with guest after guest or member after member going through the line and touching the same set of tongs. Staff those buffet lines with somebody that's able to wear gloves and change them and practice good sanitary procedures. So those are just a few things that I think that doing.
Yeah, well said. And I got to think that even getting into some of the, gym equipment, making sure those things are wiped down properly, any pool activities like you mentioned, really, as you said, just anything where multiple people are touching, you've got to be certainly on high alert for here in the next few months. I mean, this is obviously your and my opinion, but it seems like it's going to get quite a bit worse before it gets better from everything I've read in the news. Do you have the same feeling, Cindy?
I do. I think we are going to see some more issues come up, and it's going to just become more urgent that clubs can, consider different options for interactions with members. And you need to be planning with your staff right now. After educating them on, hygiene and sanitation and food handling and, is clean, you need to make sure everybody's aware of the symptoms of COVID-19, to have a policy in place to let staff not feel comfortable not coming in if they're not feeling well. You need to look at cross-training for critical jobs so that every role at the club has at least one or two other people that could perform that job if necessary. Because there will be people that, even if they're not sick, their children may no longer be going to school, so they're going to have to deal with child care issues that they might not normally have.
That's a great point.
So there's other reasons why they may not be coming to work. So you're just going to have a business continuity plan developed and thought through on what's important and, what services or amenities it might be best to just until this thing passes.
100%. You're right on there. And as you mentioned, like, for instance, I know a lot of school districts are considering, we're going into spring break here. I would not be shocked if some schools just do not reopen for, after spring break here. So you're 100% right. It's not necessarily that the employees might get sick themselves, but they might just literally have fears of being in public. They might have children that have to stay home, or a spouse that they need to take care of, or countless other situations that are happening. Cindy, one last question for you before I let you go. I know you guys are closely monitoring the situation, and you have your national club conference happening here very shortly in the next couple of months. What's the status of the conference at this time?
Gabe, COVID-19 is a developing situation, and as you said, we're monitoring it closely. But at this time, we are continuing to plan for our national club conference at Ocean Reef Club in Key Largo, Florida. It's scheduled for May 17th through the 19th. So at this time, registration's still open and ongoing. Should that change, we would obviously alert our members and our registrants. But we're hoping that things will be clear by then.
Absolutely, and I hope I will see you guys there as well. No reason for anyone to push the panic button right now, so I'm glad you guys still have the conference on, but it's something to definitely closely monitor, and we'll be getting updates from the NCA as we go here. Well, I just want to remind folks once again that website so you can stay up to date. The National Club Association, Cindy and her team will be updating this thing on a regular basis with all the latest news. That's nationalclub.org/coronavirus. Stay up to date. We'll put that link in this podcast in the show notes. And we hope you all stay safe, stay vigilant, and we'll catch you back here next time on Private Club Radio. Cindy, thanks so much for your time today.
Okay, thank you for having me on, Gabe. I appreciate the opportunity to share what NCA is doing.
Well, welcome to this special edition of Private Club Radio, where we are covering COVID-19, the coronavirus, and what that impact is for private clubs out there. My next guest here is Peter Nanula of Concert Golf Partners. Peter, it's kind of getting crazy right now. I mean, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, it is crazy everywhere, right? Not just with clubs, but not just with the stock markets, right? It's everywhere.
Yep, down 9% again today, so I think that puts us at close to 25 or almost 30% losses over the course of a week and a half or so. So it's getting wild. I think everyone really started to take notice when the NBA canceled the rest of the season, because that kind of pop culture stuff. And I also heard today that I think Tom Hanks may have come down with it in Australia.
He and his wife.
Yeah, so when
and his wife both have it because they're in Australia and they got tested, and that's been the issue. Is the U.S. isn't testing hardly at all yet, so just wait until you see. Once we start testing, the numbers here in the U.S. are going to be staggering.
And of course, President Trump, canceling flights to Europe, 26 countries now. I think the economic impact's got to be. I mean, who can even estimate? It's got to be multi trillions when you talk about hotels, Ubers, restaurants, obviously our private clubs, when you have mass gatherings like weddings and events that are being canceled at clubs. What would you say? I mean, if you could put out a number, I mean, what's this going to look like in 3 months from now, Peter?
Boy, I'm no global economist expert, but it's certainly clear to people that we are going to tip into a recession quite quickly, right? Because a recession is the economy growing? The answer is no. The economy is going to shrink for at least a short period of time. So we are going to tip into a recession.
Yeah.
I think that much is clear. I don't know about trillions, but I think recession has been forewarned, right? We had the yield curve invert a year ago.
Yep.
And everyone's been waiting for growth to slow. Now I think we have our catalyst.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you and I were on about a year ago. You were talking about the yield curve and talking about how we thought that clubs needed to start preparing then. I hope clubs did start to take some of the steps we talked about, but assuming that they didn't heed some of those warnings, where are clubs at now, and what should they be paying really close attention to in the next few months as this situation progresses?
Yeah. Well, I guess, let's start macro and then let's go micro. So macro, I mean, I think everyone's watching the news like crazy, and obviously if we have GDP growth tip into a recession, that's a big indicator, right? So instead of 2%, 3% growth, which we've been humming along at for 11 years in a row.
Yeah.
If that goes 1, 0, or a negative number, people are going to start cutting back, right? Especially your discretionary spending, right? And so that's going to affect the club business. I would say a next macro indicator would be consumer confidence. That's a metric that gets published. It's been strong for this 11-plus year expansion. It's going to go negative. It's already started to. That means people are less likely to spend, right? So those are sort of macro indicators. I guess at the club level, let's get micro. What are we looking at least? So you started to tick them off. Events. So if you have parties and events at your club, weddings, parties, and you start getting cancellations, it's good to have a direct line to your catering salespeople about what's going on with cancellations, or at least people calling in to try to cancel.
Right.
I guess the second category is member spend, members paying their bills, your AR aging, your accounts receivable aging. If you're on the board of a private club and you don't have good access to your controller telling you how collections are going with members paying their bills, that would be now would be a good time to have a more frequent understanding of members paying their bills. And then in your world, membership sales. How many tours are we doing? Kind of leading indicator. And what's our conversion rate from tours to people joining the club? You work with clubs like that, on that all the time. I would say now they need to be talking to their membership directors more often and seeing what can be done to tweak those things. Membership promotions, et cetera. You're probably already discussing with clients.
Right. Yeah, I gotta also think like seasonal clubs, like for instance, a club in Florida or Scottsdale or something like that has a big seasonal influx. We might see that members cut back on traveling. You might not get the same snowbirds that you did a year ago. So that certainly, obviously, club usage would have to be a big economic indicator too of the club's health.
Yeah, exactly. Now, listen. I mean, the good news about the club industry is we're in the golf business. Being outdoors, playing golf, great place to be, right? It's social distancing, and it's a healthy thing to be doing as opposed to cooped up on an airplane or in a stadium. So the good news about clubs is that. The bad news is there's panic and people are concerned and people cut back on their spend. So hopefully clubs can be a nice oasis for folks to go do something healthy while the world is in lockdown, as long as they're safe, right? As long as people are disinfecting, because I think you're probably already talking to folks about what they should be doing to respond to the outbreak now. Well, you see it everywhere. Disinfecting, right? Everywhere in the club.
Yep.
And sanitizers everywhere, not just in the bathrooms.
Right.
Regular communication to your members. Having some flexibility around events. Hey, this was planned. We were going to have 150 people doing X. Well, we're going to move that event outside, or we're going to postpone it for a few months. Those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta assume the buffet lines won't be as filled as much either. You might want to do some table service. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Buffets are apparently a pretty risky area, so I think people cutting back on the buffets helps.
Yeah, you get one person that sneezes on the baked beans and you're in trouble. I feel for people who actually, I was a little under the weather last week myself. So you might hear it in my voice. I'm a little stuffed up, just a common cold. But, if you have a common cold right now, you're pretty much an outcast in society.
Yeah, you're alone.
Stay away from
and
me.
You should be alone. Yeah.
How should clubs think about their own people, like taking care of their own staff? And I mean, that's such a big thing as well, and making sure the staff is safe, and people feel safe in that environment.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a big one. We've got to make sure that staff doesn't come in to work today if they feel some of these flu symptoms.
Yeah.
They shouldn't come in. And the problem is if they're relatively lower wage folks, they need the money, right? And so they're likely to come in anyway,
Right.
unless the club says, paid sick leave, or we'll get you hours, after you get better. We will take care of you and make sure that you and your family are not economically harmed by this thing.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing. Send your people home if they have any symptoms. Please go. And do not come in if you have these kind of symptoms, and we will take care of you economically.
That's so important for your employer to have your back in those types of situations. I think that's what keeps employees sticking around. When they know that their employees got their back, they're less likely to jump ship. So that's a great tip there, Peter. During some of these storms that we've had, hurricanes, tornadoes, what have you, a lot of the club industry has encountered these, and we have in Florida. The clubs like ours that kept our staffs on throughout a hurricane, you earn a tremendous amount of loyalty from your people when you don't just terminate all these folks. They need the income, right? And then your members love the staff at your club, and so the loyalty goes both ways, right? Clubs that keep their staff on and take good care of their staff make the members happy, who feel like the staff is part of their family. So yeah, now is another one of those times. Yep, absolutely. Now I know you've got a legal background, and it's not in this particular type of law. So I'm going to ask you this question. You can decline to answer it. But Peter, I've seen a lot of events canceling, and I have a good friend that's in the event business, and he was very worried about holding his event last week because, from what I understand, there's certain liability that these big events could enter if people were to get infected at the event. A mass number of people get infected, at a concert or at a conference or something like that. Do you think that this is something that clubs also need to be concerned about and be proactive and at least communicating to their members? Otherwise, maybe opening themselves up for some sort of legal action down the road?
Yeah, I think having the club industry lawyers that on the show might give you a better answer. But my answer, having been a lawyer, is generally speaking, business you get held to the standard of care in any situation that is out there, right? So if other people holding events are warning folks and taking certain precautions, cough into your elbow, stay 6 feet away from people. If that becomes the standard of care and you don't do those things, then yeah, when people start suing you and you weren't upholding the basic standard of care, you have more risk, right? Like recently, you probably heard Harvard shut down over the weekend and said, everybody go home. No more classes, please leave. Well, 2 days later, my son calls me from Boston College, and his college is closed. Yeah. No more classes.
Right.
Go home. Well, the same dynamic at play. Mm-hmm. Once some leading universities are canceling and not holding classes with 100 kids in one auditorium, and you're the university that's still holding the classes like that, and now some parent sues your school, the standard of care has been established and you weren't following it. So clubs probably the same lesson.
Yeah, good point there. And I would probably encourage clubs highly just to get communication out to your members ASAP. And we talked to Cindy Vizza earlier on this show that they have some standard letters already put together that you can send out to your club. Look through those and make sure that you're letting members know what you guys are actively doing at your club to maintain safety. I think that's really important to covering yourself long term from a legal perspective as well.
Exactly.
So, Peter,
you're probably getting the same emails that I'm getting, Gabe, from hotels and airlines and other hospitality companies.
Right.
They are sending out these emails from their CEO saying, here's what we're doing. We want to make sure you're safe. Those kinds of communications we all need to be doing to our members.
Yeah, 100%. So knowing that getting back to the economic discussion here, Peter, and knowing that the economy is likely headed into a recession, what sort of options are there for clubs? Why is Concert Golf Partners something that they maybe need to start thinking about and considering having a discussion with you? And what would your general advice be?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. I mean, again, listen, we've had 11 years in a row of a strong economy, so most clubs have been doing very well, and we hope that they continue to. There's some things people can do immediately at clubs to try to keep the good times going, right? You can trim costs in certain areas, things that members won't really notice, given the recession that's now imminent. You can, focus on member retention, which is cheaper and easier than getting new members, as you know, right?
Yeah.
Avoid piling on more debt, right? You don't want to have more and more debt at a time when the demand side of the equation, right, member spending and such, is going down, right? And then, as you know, there's a lot of consultants in our industry that you probably had on the show that can help, Club Benchmarking and many of the other groups that can help boards get focused on, tightening down the hatches during a recession, building up capital reserves, those sorts of things. Anyway, those are things that clubs can and should be sort of always doing. I guess the kinds of clubs that, if we tip into a recession, that might be more in a risk zone are obviously the clubs that have a lot of debt. Over 50% of annual revenues is one metric.
Okay.
Right. So if you have a club that's grossing $7 million a year, and you have, more than $3.5 or $4 million of debt, that's generally going to put your club at a little bit more risk. And we see sometimes they're 50 or 100% of revenues.
Sure.
I guess number two, if your club isn't full with a wait list. It sounds obvious, but you and I both know the elite clubs in this country that have a wait list to get in. Lots of people would love to join. You've got tremendous flexibility and power as a club like that. But most clubs are not full with a wait list to get in, right? Clubs that have capital projects that they need to do, but member assessments to pay for it is a little shaky, right? Obviously, if 100% of the members are just going to pay, then you just keep doing your capital projects. But if your vote for a member assessment is going to be 50, 60, 70% in favor, boy, that thing barely passing is not a good thing,
right?
Because that means you may have 50 plus members who are going to quit after you try to pass that assessment. How's your club going to look in a recession down 50 members? Not good.
Right.
So those are the kind of clubs that we talk to all the time that are fabulous clubs with a great golf course and all that, but partnering up with a equity firm like ours that can infuse capital in there and pay off your debt and take the risk, frankly, of what membership levels are. Those are the ones that are the ones we should be talking to and the ones that should be exploring their options.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Peter. Let's roll back the clock here for folks that forgot, because as you mentioned, we've had 11 great years of economic boom here in this country and really worldwide. But if we roll it back to 2008, were banks starting to call in some of these loans? You talk about debt, over 50%. Were you seeing banks call in the loan and clubs really getting into some really dire straits back then?
Yes. So the golf industry is a cottage industry. It's a niche area, right? And so lending in the golf industry is a bit of an anomaly. Back in that recession, Great Recession, there were some specific golf lenders. All they did was loan to golf courses and country clubs. Those people quickly shuttered business. They started calling their loans and saying, we're not making new loans. And if you have a loan that's maturing in a year or whatever, we're not extending it. So if you're a club, you're thinking, how am I supposed to pay back $5 million right now? We don't have $5 million.
Right.
And there's no other banks to call to refinance. It's so different from you and me and your home mortgage. Like, there's always banks that will refinance out your current mortgage. But in the golf industry, it's a much more limited universe of lenders. So, yeah, they started shuttering. Here, I think it's different. That was a different time. I think we do not have golf-specific lenders anymore. We just have local banks and some national banks like B of A and Wells Fargo that have made lots of golf club loans. But we don't have sort of golf-specific lenders that are going to close up shop.
Right. Yeah, that's great. But I mean, I guess the fear is, if you've got a bank, they might start to get nervous if there's any kind of, real panic or, that happens in terms of capital raising. So like Peter mentioned, if you're in that spot and you've got a high debt ratio in income to debt there with your club, certainly that's the time to start exploring some other options there. Peter, if folks want to reach out to you and just have a chat and maybe get your advice, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you guys?
Yeah. No, our website is a good place to start, concertgolfpartners.com. There's a lot of information there, and then my phone number and email and everything is there. Happy to talk to clubs about their different options and how we can help, and frankly, how other people in our industry can help them.
That's awesome. I mean, you guys are such a great resource, and you've helped a lot of clubs out there already and continue to do so. And we thank you for the work that you guys are doing at Concert Golf Partners, Peter. Stay safe out there. Use that hand sanitizer, and I'll catch you back here hopefully next month on Private Club Radio.
Excellent, Gabe. Thanks for doing what you do for the industry.
All right, third and final guest here on our special edition of Private Club Radio is Justin Baer of Member Text. Justin, you're in DC. What's the feeling like where you're at, man?
Oh my gosh, I think if full on panic is a 10, I think we're probably about a 8 in our area.
Yeah.
So it's creeping up there.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was at our club in the gym, and there was a guy, and he was wearing gloves, and he used like little wipey things around the dumbbells. So he had the gloves and the wipey things on the dumbbells. So people are definitely getting prepared. Our general manager at Woodmont is doing a good job. I mean, I even saw him walk through the gym while I was in there, just making sure there's hand sanitizer and making sure everything's clean. I saw more people going around, but everyone is definitely freaked out and wanting to know what's going on.
Right.
And see what's happening. Are they going to close? Are they staying open? What's happening?
Yep. It's so important just to keep up to date with what each club is doing. And you and I have been talking on this show about your tool, and I've been promoting your tool now for, almost a year here on the show, talking about why it's so important to keep members up to date, especially when emergencies like this happen. So now it's finally happening. A texting tool like Member Text, how valuable is it, and how do you see clubs using it to keep their members up to date, Justin?
It's interesting. I think we got 3 calls yesterday. The day before, I think 4. A lot from the Seattle area. If you remember, there was an outbreak in Seattle. We've had, I think the rest kind of the Northeast. But clubs are, realize, hey, this is really important. Email's not doing the job. We knew this all along. We need some tool to make sure members know about whether we're going to close, whether the dining room's open, whether they can still play golf, whether they can still go to the gym. And that goes for employees too, right? Employees want to know just as much as the members do about what's going on. And so with texting, it has a 98% open rate. The texts are read within 3 minutes. Another thing I just set up with the general manager is they can send a text right from their cell phone. So a lot of times what's weird I've heard is that they can't push emails out. I guess the way Jonas or Club Essential set up, I'm not exactly sure, but they can't log in from their personal laptop at home. Whereas with Member Text, they can do it, of course, from their laptop anywhere. They can do it from their phone. It takes 20 to 30 seconds. Let members know, keep them up to date. Let members know that you are thinking about this. Let staff know that you're thinking about this and taking it seriously. And I think it's, an easy win if you kind of want to call that.
Well, that's a huge point there because, for instance, I'm very likely and certainly considering as an option letting my folks work from home. And obviously I have the ability to do that because we have a standalone office. We're not a private club. But if that situation occurs and employees are at home and your general manager or whomever is going to be sending those updates to the staff and to the members can't access their work computer because they're at home, how great is it to have a platform that they can just hop on their cell phone real quick and pop out a text, make sure everyone gets updated what's going on. Because communication, we've talked about so much, you and I, is just keeping people informed. It really avoids those panicky situations. And I know you've told stories about when you were on a plane, and just having the pilot come on to tell you what's going on, just alleviates a lot of fears when you've got that communication. Why is it so important just to stay up to date with folks?
Yeah, I mean, I love that example of the pilot. They still do it. How come, like, when you're backing up off the gate and the plane just stops, they don't come on for like 30 minutes, and then everybody's like panicking in the plane and calling everybody. They don't know. Why don't they? They knew what it was the first minute. They're like, we have a mechanical issue. This needs to get. Just people would just want to. They just want to know what's going on.
Right.
Just keep us informed. Keep your members informed. Keep your employees informed. And this is such an easy way to do it, with just popping out a text.
Exactly.
And then what we're also going to do is, and we're just about to shoot this email out, is any club around the country that wants to use member text to send information out, really over the next, we're probably going to offer for 2 months free, is we can get you up and running in probably an hour. You just have to pull your list. We can talk about that. But they can keep their members up to date about Corona, about other closures and disruptions, totally for free. You don't need a credit card. We're just kind of happy to kind of help out as best we can here. We kind of did the same thing when it was the hurricane in Florida, but any club can use MemberText for free. Just go to membertext.net, or you can schedule a demo and just let us know, or you can email me, Justin at membertext.net, or call me, shoot me a text message at 410-935-1999, and we'll get you set up pretty quickly,
incredible.
And so you can use it. Yeah.
That's incredible that you're doing that. You mentioned it to me right before we went on that you're going to give that tool for everyone to use at any club, no questions asked. And just got to say thank you for doing that, man. I mean, that's why this industry is the best industry in the world, because we've got caring folks like you there to help out when these pandemics hit, I guess. Which I hope we don't see another one of these for a while, but it's gonna be we still have quite a bit of runway ahead. Unfortunately, it looks like.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I think it got really serious this week.
Yeah.
I think people are saying we're going to be Italy, next week or in 10 days, where they're going to, have full quarantine. So yeah, we're happy to help out. It shouldn't take that long, probably an hour to get everybody up and running, but I know members are going to appreciate it. I think, the clubs will appreciate it. The staff is going to appreciate it. And it's just so much easier to send out a text than it is an email,
right?
Too. So
yep. So that's Justin at membertext.net. His cell phone also 410-935-1999. Do not delay. Go ahead and do it now, because I assume lots of people are going to be doing this. So make sure you get in line first. So it really only does take an hour to get this set up, but incredible opportunity Justin's giving you. Make sure you take advantage of it. Justin, thanks for joining us, and I hope more and more people put this tool into place, because this is exactly why we need it.
Great. Thanks so much, Gabe. Take care. Stay healthy. Wash your hands. Don't touch anybody.
You might see me in a hazmat suit pretty soon. No, I'm trying not to panic. You can't panic over stuff that we have no control of. You can only control the things you can control. But you're right. Wash your hands. Stay safe, and stay vigilant.
Exactly. All right, great. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, Justin. Stay safe, everyone. I will be back with you as this progresses. We'll release new content as needed. And, of course, we'll be back here on Monday. I'll catch you back here then. And until then, here's to your membership success and safety.